Now, going green isn't just for us, but it's for the amazing wildlife that we share the planet with. And we know that some of you are very concerned about the risks that these animals are presented with.
And who better to talk to about the importance of protecting them than wildlife TV presenter and conservationist Chris Packham. First of all, welcome to the studio.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here.
It's great to have you here. So you've just wrote a book called Superhero Animals, and it's all about what animals do for us and for the planet and what we can do in return to protect them. Now, I was reading through and one of the pages was about wasps. Now, I know not many people are too fond of wasps, but they're actually quite important, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, the key thing about the book here is to explain to people that it's not all about the big, dramatic characters in the animal kingdom. It's about the little stuff as well, things like wasps. If they're there because they've got a job to do. And what they actually do is perform a role as an important insect predator. They're feeding on meat. They're collecting meat to feed their grubs. Their own food, they want nectar. That's what brings them to the sweet stuff, your soft drinks, your ice cream, and the stuff that they'll pester you for. But the reason they're important is that they're great for gardeners and farmers, because if they're eating meat, they're controlling other insect pests, things like caterpillars, aphids, all sorts of things. And so if you leave wasp nest alone, you don't need to spray your garden with pesticides because they're doing the job naturally, and that's exactly what we want. So they play an important role. They're a superhero in that sense.
And what about pets? I've heard you're a big fan of dogs who can do some pretty amazing things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have two poodles, Sid and Nancy, so for me they're sort of companion animals. When I get home tonight, they'll be there, they'll greet me, I'll get down, we'll all have a big cuddle, and I'm going to feel good. But more broadly, they have a phenomenal sense of smell. I mean, we can't even imagine how well they smell. And what we found is that we can train them to pick up on some, diseases that we suffer from. There are dogs that can smell specific cancers. In a conservation sense, we can train them to smell specific animal poo. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, if animals occur at very low density, or if perhaps they're very rare, they can be very difficult to see, but they're always going to leave their poo behind, right? And if the dogs can go out and smell it, that means that the scientists can find it. And poo's really important because it's packed with information. Clearly, firstly, you can look at it to see what the animal's been eating. That's obvious. But these days, we can take DNA from the poo and we can find out which exact individual that was, whether it was a male or a female, whether it's got young, how old it is, and we can even extrapolate to figure out what the populations of those animals are. So training dogs to smell poo is actually a very useful tool. And get this, it's not just poo on land, which would seem obvious, we've actually trained dogs to smell whale poo. So we take them out in boats, they follow the whales about, and then when the dog starts barking, they know that a whale has pooped near the surface of the sea. The scientists speed over there with their bucket, get a sample, and they learn a lot more about whale ecology. And without that knowledge, we can't look after the animals, so they're playing an important role.
This will be a super difficult question for yourself, and you always said you've got two dogs, but what's your favourite wildlife animal?
For me, it's always been about, birds. I love birds. The ones that mean most to me are the ones that are in my garden, because I can help look after them. I can leave a little patch of the garden wild. I get very excited when I see a new species of bird in my garden. I saw one on Sunday for the first time, and immediately I was on the phone to my mate saying, guess what I've just had in my garden? A lesser spotted woodpecker. The lesser spotted woodpecker is a tiny little bird. It's only about this big, and it flits around right in the tops of trees. When I was your age, it was a lot commoner. It's gone through a very serious decline. So to have one of those in my garden, look, I'm still really buzzing. I'm really excited about it.
I know for me and lots of people the same age as me, climate change often seems like a very big, overwhelming problem. But what are some of the little things that we can do?
The key thing I always say is that the vast majority of young people in the UK are in control of what they eat. You can choose to be more environmentally friendly every time you eat and drink. And that includes not just the food, but the packaging, how far it's been transported, all of those sorts of things. And we know full well that we have to move towards a more plant-based diet. I'm not telling you or any of your viewers that they have to give up meat, but by eating less meat, you'll be making an instantaneous difference.
Well, there's loads of great tips there that I'm sure the viewers at home can take from this as well. But thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite.